You don't feel it all at once. That's the thing. When she finally walks away, it doesn't hit you like a car crash. It's slower. It creeps in. At first, it just feels quieter. There's no big scene. No fireworks, no dramatic exit, just her absence, and that absence has a sound all its own, one that grows loud over time. In the beginning, you might even tell yourself you're fine. You breathe a little easier, maybe. There's no one texting you about how your day was. No one asking you to talk things out. You convince yourself this is what you needed. Space, freedom, less pressure. You fill the silence with distraction, noise, people, maybe even someone new. But you can't fill a space with echoes. Because it starts showing up in the smallest ways. You go to send a meme to someone and instinctively open her chat. You walk past the coffee shop where she always ordered that weird drink you used to tease her for. You hear a song that reminds you of that night she danced in the kitchen barefoot, laughing like she forgot the world existed. And that's when the silence begins to ache. You notice it when something good happens, a win, a moment, and you realize there's no one to share it with in a way that feels real. Surface level connections don't compare. You tell someone else and they nod, smile, maybe even congratulate you, but they don't light up the way she used to when she saw you succeed. She believed in you long before you gave her a reason to. She saw greatness in you when all you had were excuses. You don't just miss her voice, you miss who you were around her. You miss the version of yourself who felt understood, who didn't have to pretend. The one who felt like he mattered not because of what he had, but because of who he was. And slowly you start to understand something most men don't realize until it's too late. Her presence was never loud. It was just steady. And that steadiness, that's what made you overlook it. She didn't need to scream to be heard. She was just there consistently, quietly, fully. And now without her, you feel the drop off. The emotional freefall of knowing she isn't going to text goodnight just because it mattered to you. She isn't going to remind you to take that meeting seriously because she wants you to win. She isn't going to fight for something you stopped protecting. There's no one holding space for you anymore, not because you're unworthy, but because she got tired of proving that you were. And here's the hardest part: you thought love was supposed to be loud, dramatic, messy. You didn't recognize that her calm was her power, that her reliability was a sign of emotional maturity, not neediness. And now, in her absence, you finally see the difference between someone who wants attention and someone who just wanted connection. You begin to replay conversations in your head, trying to hear her words again, but all you're left with is your version of them. You wonder how many times she tried to tell you she was hurting not with anger, but with silence. Not with accusations, but with distance. How many warnings you missed because you were too busy brushing off her feelings as too sensitive or too much. Now, no one's checking on you, not because they don't care, but because she was the one who did. She was the one who asked, who noticed, who remembered. And you start to feel the emotional weight of that loss not in your head, but in your chest. It's heavier than you expected, because it's not just about missing her anymore. It's about realizing that in her absence, you are now face to face with the version of yourself that she tried so hard to love through. And now there's no buffer between you and the consequences of taking someone rare for granted. At first, he doesn't go looking for a replacement, not consciously. He tells himself he's just moving on, keeping it light, not ready for anything serious. It's not about replacing her, he says. It's about freedom, fun, reclaiming a version of himself he thinks he lost somewhere in the relationship. But then he starts noticing patterns. He finds himself comparing, not openly, not aloud. But in his mind, every new interaction echoes a part of her. Someone else laughs and it's not as full. Someone else texts, but the timing feels off, too forced, too cold, too eager. Someone else listens to his story, but they don't ask follow-up questions. They smile, nod, and move on. He starts to realize it's not that other women aren't beautiful, kind, or interesting. It's that none of them feel like her. They don't see through him the way she did. They don't pick up on the tiny shifts in his tone, the meaning behind his silence, the way she used to just know when something was wrong even before he did. And slowly, it begins to dawn on him that what he had wasn't average, wasn't ordinary, wasn't something you just find again. Because real women who bring emotional depth, intelligence, intuition, and loyalty, they don't show up every Friday night at a bar or in a curated profile online. They're rare. Not because there aren't enough women, but because not many are willing to give their heart and their mind to someone who doesn't know what to do with it. She was the kind of woman who made being cared for feel effortless, who didn't need to announce her worth because it was embedded in everything she did. The way she asked him how his mom was doing, not just out of politeness, but because she remembered the hospital visit. The way she sent him that quote the morning of his presentation because she knew his anxiety wasn't about the meeting, it was about not feeling good enough. The way she never tried to change him, just held him to a standard he stopped holding himself to. And what he once saw as too much, her emotional honesty, her need for reassurance, her high standards he now understands was just clarity. She was clear on what she needed because she'd done the work. She wasn't demanding, she was transparent. And that transparency scared him because he wasn't ready to meet it with his own. He remembers how she celebrated his wins even when she wasn't the cause of them. How she stayed when things got messy, how she gave him room to grow, but not forever. How she listened with presence, argued with intention, and loved with consistency. She wasn't perfect, but she was present. And that, he now knows, is infinitely more rare than perfection. He starts to realize that the world teaches you to chase novelty, new faces, new chemistry, new beginnings, but nobody warns you about the hollowness of connection without. substance, without history, without that quiet understanding built over time. He didn't just lose a woman. He lost his person, the one who showed up when it wasn't easy, the one who saw his potential and actually called it out. Not because she needed him to be more, but because she believed he already was. Now, when he talks to someone new, he listens for that depth, the kind of emotional intelligence she brought into every conversation, the way she could hold space for his fears without absorbing them, the way she asked real questions and didn't just smile. But it's not there. Not like it was with her. And suddenly, all the little things he used to take for granted, the comfort, the challenge, the spark, the softness, start feeling like things he may never feel again in the same way. Because it wasn't about just being loved, it was about being understood. And that kind of, it comes in waves. He's not sitting around thinking about her all day. Life keeps moving. He's busy, he's distracted, but every now and then in the middle of something ordinary, a memory hits him like a gust of wind that smells like home. And just like that, he's back in a moment he didn't know he'd miss. He's sitting in traffic and a song comes on that used to play in the background when she cooked dinner. He never paid attention to it before. But now it makes him feel something he can't quite name. Nostalgia maybe, or guilt, or both. He remembers teasing her about that playlist, saying it was too slow, too moody, and how she'd just laugh and keep humming anyway. Now the silence in his car feels heavier than any slow song ever could. He walks into a store and sees her favorite snack. The one she always kept in the cabinet. The one he'd eat without telling her, then pretend he hadn't. She'd roll her eyes and call him out, but always bought more without making it a thing. He sees it now and almost reaches for it, then catches himself. What's the point? It doesn't taste the same anymore. That's the thing about the small stuff, you don't realize how much it matters until there's no one doing it. No one checking in to ask if you made it home. No one noticing the tone in your voice when you say I'm fine, but clearly aren't. No one asking about that big meeting because they remembered you were nervous about it. She remembered everything even when he acted like nothing needed remembering. And now those flashbacks, they show up like ghosts. The way she gently pushed him to be more open when he wanted to shut down. The way she didn't just say I love you but showed it in ways he didn't recognize as love at the time. He thought love was just words or grand gestures. But she gave it in reminders, in patience, in making his life easier when she could have chosen not to. He remembers how she listened, not just to respond, but to understand. The way she'd say, I just want to know how you're really feeling and mean it. Not because she needed drama, not because she was clingy, but because she cared. Because she actually wanted to know the parts of him he never let anyone else see. At the time, it felt intense, heavy, like too much effort. He thought she was always emotional, when really she was just emotional, always available. He mistook her openness for overthinking, her affection for neediness, her boundaries for ultimatums. And now, with space and silence between them, he starts to see the difference. The clarity hindsight cruelly delivers. He thinks about the time she sat next to him while he vented about things he couldn't fix. She didn't try to solve it, just let him be angry or tired or overwhelmed, just held space. That phrase never meant much to him before. Now he wishes someone would hold space for him the way she did, without judgment, without rushing him to be okay. And what stings the most isn't just that she's gone, it's that he realizes she gave him so many chances to show up, to communicate, to grow, and he didn't. Not because he didn't love her, but because he thought she'd always be there, that he could keep giving her almost and she'd keep accepting it. He remembers her silence during their last few conversations, how she didn't fight anymore. It didn't ask for anything, didn't plead. He thought that meant she stopped caring. Now he knows that was her finally letting go, quietly, gracefully, painfully. He used to come home and find little notes she'd leave on the fridge, reminders, encouragements, don't forget your amazing kind of things. He never told her how much they meant because he thought it would always be there. That she would always be there, that kind of love, the daily, consistent, loyal kind he assumed it was standard. Now he understands that was the exception, that was the gift he thought he had time to learn how to deserve. It doesn't hit him right away. Emotional immaturity doesn't usually come with a warning label. It's not something you know you're carrying until the damage has already been done. At the time, he thought he was just being rational. He thought keeping a little distance, staying emotionally guarded, and dodging serious conversations was just how men protected themselves. What he didn't realize is that she wasn't asking for perfection, she was asking for presence. She wanted honesty, not heroics, vulnerability, not grand gestures, but instead he gave her silence when she needed reassurance, dismissiveness when she opened up, logic when she needed warmth, and now with the benefit of hindsight, he can see how often she lowered her voice to keep the peace while he raised his walls to feel in control. He didn't mean to hurt her, that's the hardest part. In his mind, he was just trying to keep things simple, keep things chill. He thought avoiding deep emotional conversations made the relationship easier, but all it really did was make her feel alone, even when she was right next to him. He regrets how many times she tried to explain what she needed, and he called it nagging. How many moments she tried to get close, and he pulled away. How often she said, I feel like I'm fighting for this alone, and he responded with silence instead of effort. At the time, he thought she was being too sensitive, too emotional, too intense. Now, he understands she was just trying to meet him in a place he refused to go. Emotional immaturity doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it's passivity, indifference, defensiveness. It's the fear of being seen. It's shutting down when things get real. It's pretending you don't care because you don't know how to show that you do. And that's what he was doing. Over and over, he remembers the way she'd say, I just need you to talk to me, and how that made him feel cornered, not because she was wrong, but because he had no idea how to express what was going on inside him. He wasn't taught that kind of language. He didn't grow up learning how to name his emotions, let alone share them. But instead of admitting that, he shut down, withdrew, or turned it back on her, made her feel like the problem. Now, he regrets every moment he made her question herself for wanting more than the bare minimum. Every time he rolled his eyes when she tried to talk things through. Every time he weaponized, I didn't mean it like that, instead of owning how it came across. She wasn't asking him to be perfect, just accountable, just aware. But emotional immaturity tells you that taking responsibility is weakness. That saying, I hurt you and I see that now, makes you less of a man. So he never said it. He let his ego drive the relationship into a quiet kind of collapse. One where she kept shrinking to avoid conflict and he kept pretending not to notice. The regret sinks in slowly, not all at once. It hits when he sees a couple having a hard conversation and sticking it out. It hits when he meets someone new and they ask him a simple question about how he feels, and he realizes he still doesn't have the tools to answer. It hits when he scrolls through photos and sees the look in her eyes, not just love, but hope. The hope that he would grow, that he would meet her halfway, that he'd stop making her feel like asking for connection was a burden. He knows now that she didn't walk away because he was flawed. She walked away because he wasn't willing to work through those flaws with her, because she spent more time justifying his behavior to herself than actually receiving love from him. And maybe the most painful part of all is knowing she would have stayed if he had just tried. If he had just been emotionally available enough to say, I don't know how to do this, but I want to learn. Instead, he stayed behind the armor. And now he's left with the sharp edge of knowing he didn't lose her because he was a bad person. He lost her because he wasn't ready for a good one. It doesn't happen during a fight. It's not some big moment of drama, some final blowout or shouting match that slams the door shut. It happens in the stillness, quietly, almost like background noise you suddenly notice has gone completely still. There's no message this time, no soft I miss you that shows up on his phone after a few weeks of distance, no birthday text, no breadcrumb of attention to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the door's still open a crack. She's just gone. And the silence isn't temporary anymore. It's permanent. At first, he still tells himself she'll come back. Maybe she's just taking space. Maybe she needs time. Maybe she wants to see if he'll reach out first. He knows she has a pattern she pulls away, but she always checks back in. She always left some part of the thread uncut. But this time he feels it. That thread has snapped. She's not angry, not cold, not bitter. She's just done. And that's what makes it unbearable. Because when someone leaves in rage, you can tell yourself there's unfinished business. When someone lashes out, at least there's still energy they're still feeling. But when she leaves in peace, it means she's already grieved the relationship. She already felt everything she needed to feel. She already cried the tears, wrote the unsent messages, processed the disappointment. She already gave him more time than he probably deserved. Now she's finally choosing herself, and he knows it. That's the crushing part, the full body weight of knowing that someone loved you deeply, wanted you fully, fought for you repeatedly, and now they don't even look back. No closure, no final conversation, because she already gave him every opportunity to get it right. He replays the moments he could have done more. He hears her voice in his head saying things he used to brush off. I don't feel seen. I feel like I'm doing this alone. I'm not asking for two. Much I'm asking the wrong person. At the time, he thought it was dramatic, emotional. He told himself she'd cool off. She always did. He relied on her loyalty like it was guaranteed. Like she wouldn't really leave, like she'd keep choosing him no matter how many times he made her feel like an afterthought. Now, he's the one staring at his phone, rereading old messages, wondering how he didn't notice the moment she emotionally checked out. Because that's how real women leave, not suddenly, but slowly, quietly, like fog lifting off a field after sunrise. One day, they're just not there anymore. Not in spirit, not in heart. And eventually, not in body either. He sees her posts now, maybe smiling, maybe growing, maybe glowing in ways he didn't get to witness. And it hits him that someone else will get the version of her he helped shape, the stronger, wiser, more self-loving version that she became because she finally had to walk away. Someone else will get her affection, her laughter, her loyalty, her inside jokes. Someone else will hear her say, I'm proud of you, and mean it with every part of her soul. And all he has is the knowledge that she used to say that to him, that he used to be the one she called home. He regrets not realizing sooner that loving someone isn't just about how much you feel, it's about how much you show up, about how consistently you choose them, especially when it's hard. He thought he had more time, more chances, more rope to burn before she'd really leave. He didn't expect the day would come when she'd stop fighting for it, when she'd stop hoping, when she'd finally take all the love she was pouring into him and reinvest it into herself. He tries to think of what he'd even say if she called, if she gave him 5 minutes, if she gave him one more conversation. But she won't, because he knows her now, really knows her. And a woman like her doesn't go back to what she had to heal from. Not because she hates him, but because she finally learned to love herself more than the potential of what they could have been. And he feels that truth not in his head, but in his chest, where all the noise finally goes still, and all that's left is the ache of knowing he had something rare, and he let it go, thinking it would wait for him to grow into the man she needed him to be. Weeks of distance, no birthday text, no breadcrumb of attention to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the door's still open a crack. She's just gone. And the silence isn't temporary anymore. It's permanent. At first, he still tells himself she'll come back. Maybe she's just taking space. Maybe she needs time. Maybe she wants to see if he'll reach out first. He knows she has a pattern she pulls away, but she always checks back in. She always left some part of the thread uncut. But this time he feels it. That thread has snapped. She's not angry, not cold, not bitter. She's just done. And that's what makes it unbearable. Because when someone leaves in rage, you can tell yourself there's unfinished business. When someone lashes out, at least there's still energy they're still feeling. But when she leaves in, he walks into a store and sees her favorite snack. The one she always kept in the cabinet. The one he'd eat without telling her, then pretend he hadn't. She'd roll her eyes and call him out, but always bought more without making it a thing. He sees it now and almost reaches for it, then catches himself. What's the point? It doesn't taste the same anymore. That's the thing about the small stuff. You don't realize how much it matters until there's no one doing it. No one checking in to ask if you made it home. No one noticing the tone in your voice when you say I'm fine, but clearly aren't. No one asking about that big meeting because they remembered you were nervous about it. She remembered everything even when he acted like nothing needed remembering. And now those flashbacks, they show up like ghosts. The way she gently pushed him to be more open when he wanted to shut down. The way she didn't just say I love you but showed it. Someone else will get her affection. Her laughter. Her loyalty. Her inside jokes. Someone else will hear her say I'm proud of you and mean it with every part of her soul. And all he has is the knowledge that she used to say that to him, that he used to be the one she called home. He regrets not realizing sooner that loving someone isn't just about how much you feel, it's about how much you show up, about how consistently you choose them, especially when it's hard. He thought he had more time, more chances, more rope to burn before she'd really leave. He didn't expect the day would come when she'd stop fighting for it, when she'd stop hoping, when she'd finally take all the love she was pouring into him and reinvest it into herself. He tries to think of what he'd even say if she called, if she gave him 5 minutes, if she gave him one more conversation. But she won't, because he knows her now, really knows her. And